All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. The copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
On July 12, 1898, a white mob abducted and lynched a black man named John Henry James in a public lynching in Albemarle County, Virginia, near Charlottesville. Although 150 white men were involved in lynching, and the police chief and county sheriff were both present when James was lynched, no one was ever held accountable for James's killing. James's lynching was later celebrated by several hundred more white people who gathered to see his body as it was left hanging for hours. James was arrested and falsely accused of assaulting a white woman on July 11th. When mobs of white people were gathered outside the jail and open threats of lynching were made, James was quickly transported to a neighboring city. The next morning, on July 12th, James was aboard a train returning to Charlottesville when a mob of armed white men intercepted the train at Woods Crossing in Albemarle County and seized him. The mob, at least 150 white men, broke into the train car and put a rope around James's neck. When news of the attack spread, a group of black men attempted to stop the lynching, but they were outnumbered by the mob. The mob then dragged James from the train to a locust tree 40 yards away and hung him before firing dozens of bullets to his body. Before he was hanged, James protested his innocence to the crowd. The crowd dispersed, leaving James's body hanging for hours. Those who lynched James made no attempt to conceal their faces or identities. Newspapers reported that hundreds of white people visited the scene to view James's body and cut off pieces of his clothing, body, and locust tree as souvenirs.
They tortured him for 28 days straight, pulled out his fingernails, burned his skin, broke every bone in his hands, and when he still wouldn't confess, they hung him anyway. This is the story of John Henry James, and the lynching so brutal that even the white newspapers called it barbaric. First, in the summer of 1898, a white woman in Albemarle County, Virginia, claimed she had been assaulted by a black man. John Henry James was pulled off a train by a mob the same day. No investigation, no evidence, no witness who could place him at the scene. Just a white woman's accusation and a black man within reach. That was enough. Then, they didn't just kill him. They made it last. The mob took turns for hours. They wanted a confession that would never come because John Henry James maintained his innocence until his last breath. When they finally tired of torturing him, they chained him to a tree and opened fire with rifles. His body was so destroyed that the local coroner could barely document the cause of death. And finally, the governor of Virginia knew it was happening in real time. Local officials sent him telegrams asking for intervention. He had the authority to dispatch the state militia within hours. He read every telegram. He did nothing. Chose political convenience over a black man's life without hesitation. John Henry James died innocent, tortured for nearly a month, murdered by a mob while the governor of his state sat at his desk and let it happen. His name was never cleared. His killers were never charged. He has no grave marker. Follow for more.
Shalom. We're the brothers of the GMS Indianapolis camp, here with another sit-down lesson. And as always, we want to open up by giving all the praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well and preach the truth and true sincerity. Shalom to the hopefully elect. And today's lesson is going to be another installment of our camp series here in the GMS Indianapolis camp, entitled For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob, which is directly quoted from Obadiah, the first chapter, which is only one chapter, and verse 10. And within the series, we go through history, search out stories and highlight the violence, the atrocities, the evils that Esau, even the so-called white man, has done against the children of Israel, being the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And everything we go through serves as to why all right, or is a witness, okay, as to why the Lord is bringing the hefty judgment that He's going to bring upon Esau, even the so-called white man. All right, everything we go through shows that Esau, even the so-called white man, is not guiltless, okay, as it comes to touching the Lord's chosen people. See, in today's video, we got a story, you know, of an Israelite man, you know, lynched by 150 so-called white men, you know. So somebody want to go ahead and get the opening scripture?
This is Obadiah. This is the book of Obadiah, verse 10. It says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever."
See, so ultimately, that's what Esau's judgment is at the end. All right, that he as a nation is going to be cut off forever. And it all goes back to all the evil, right? All the violence that this devil has committed against the Lord's chosen people. Okay, and the things that we've gone through so far, okay, and the things that we continue to find, okay, that's all we know about, man. All right, there's certain stories and certain lynchings, and certain events that weren't documented in history that only the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai knows about. See, but even what we're going through so far, man, hey, it just doesn't end. And Esau Edom's perpetual hatred against the children of Israel has carried forward, all right, even to this very day. Okay, and ultimately we know what's going to happen to Esau for that. That what he's going into captivity, all right, twice as long and twice as hard as we did it. After he serves his 1,000-year period of captivity, hey, guess what, man? His nation is going to be wiped out forever, man. And there's not going to be any remaining Edomite on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
Got any precepts?
Yeah, I got precepts.
I got some.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 17, just get straight to the point, verse 6. Okay. It says, at the mouth of two witnesses or three witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death, but at the mouth of one witness shall witness, he shall not be put to death. And the reason I put that is the brother mentioned, that this is a witness against Esau Edom, so-called white man. First and foremost, we know that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is the number one witness, and the holy angels, as it tells the scriptures, that the eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. We know that that's a witness. We know that you have the men of the Lord in which he is risen up, the mouthpiece of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, who's physically living amongst the heathen and seeing all the things that are the atrocities that are happening and crying to the Heavenly Father to make good on his promise and take down this land, this nation, this wicked kingdom for all the atrocities that they have committed, and to bring back righteousness on the earth. That's a witness. You also have, if they can get the one, mouth speak against them, you know what I mean? The tongue fall upon themselves. They shall make their tongue.
This is excuse me, slightly. This is Psalms chapter 64 and verse 8. It says, "So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away."
See, and they have the internet. They run pretty much the very people who have done all these things to us. They hold high ranking positions in the whole entire earth. Job 9:24 said the earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. And so through their media, social media, through all their media, uh, if you're not under a rock, you understand they have the media, the banking system, all these things that they have done. They have publicized it, to the masses, and so their own people are seeing these things. And in these last days, he is being uncovered. He is being made bare, because even his own people, his own women now are speaking on these things. Some of those that look so-called white, they may be Jake, but they're speaking up of the things that are happening to the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, and the injustice that is happening to our people as well. So this is just another witness for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, as Amawan has coined for this, is that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We only see just a small portion, 200 plus videos of what they have done, and not one video has been duplicated in the series. And so there's a plethora, a huge amount of stories that are being amplified by this. But then think of all of Jake, who have had some form of run-ins with so-called Edomites. No, excuse me, Salakia, so-called white people, which are the Edomites that the Bible speaks of. Um, so we'll go on from there. Just wanted to bring that out.
Anybody got the article pulled up?
I do. So the article is titled 150 Unmasked White Men Lynch John Henry James in Virginia. And this is from our site that we typically use, the Quality of Justice Initiative. And the link for this will be posted in the description. It says, on July 12, 1898, an unmasked white mob abducted and lynched a black man named John Henry James in a public spectacle lynching in Albemarle County, Virginia, near Charlottesville. Although 150 unmasked white men were involved in the lynching and the police chief and county sheriff were present when Mr. James was lynched, no one was ever held accountable for Mr. James's killing. Mr. James's lynching was later celebrated by several hundred more white people who gathered to see his body as it was left hanging for hours.
This is Psalm 73. I'm starting verse 5, and it reads, "And they are not troubled as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, and violence covered them as a garment." And I bring this up because, as you've seen, and as he stated in the article, it was law enforcement present during that time of the lynching, but they wasn't convicted. Now let that be a Jake man doing some type of violence. So we'll be persecuted right there on the spot.
Yep. I got Amos chapter 1 and verse 11. It says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever." All right, so unlike so pretty much, all right, a lot of times you'll see in the stories and stuff that we read in our fought our battles against our brother Jacob that Esau essentially here and that time period they were getting away with the things that they did to Jake, man. All right, but best believe, all right, the Lord is not gonna turn away that punishment, man. All right, because for years and years and years, they were like what we're reading today, they were lynching Jake. All right, they were raping Jake women, all right, and getting away with it, man. Here at that current point in time. But hey, the Lord, all right, he's not gonna allow y'all to get away with these things, man. All right. The Lord, when he comes back, man, hey, he's gonna destroy Esau, man. All right, and you're gonna what? Be put into chains, man. All right, for 1,000 years. All right, and after that, you're gonna be done away with as a nation, man. All right. These stories that we read are examples of your anger tearing perpetually, man. Meaning y'all have that everlasting anger and hatred for the nation of Israel, man. All right, and obviously you have to do some of the things that you do. You gotta have some type of hatred, man. All right, and y'all kept y'all wrath forever, man, until this very day. All right, hey, a lot of times the Esau, they like to act like they like you, but deep down we know that they got that hatred, man. All right, like on the jobs and things like that, they try to smile in your face. All right, but we know that hatred is still there, man. All right, keep going, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, going back to the article.
Okay. Back to the article. It says, Mr. James was arrested and falsely accused of assaulting a white woman on July 11th. When mobs of white people gathered outside of the jail and open threats of lynching were made, Mr. James was quickly transported to a neighboring city. During the era of racial terror lynchings, charges of sexual assault against black men, even when made with unsubstantiated evidence, regularly aroused violent white mobs.
Precept. You want to finish that line? Oh,
That was the last line for that
kind,
paragraph.
kind. Yeah, this is Exodus chapter, and another brother can speak on it. Exodus chapter 23, verse 1. It says, "Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thy hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness."
All these stories, we read so far, has been started, by a false report. Because a lot of times, when it talks about, Jake, being accused of assaulting a so-called white woman, hey, a lot of those times, man, the so-called white woman was digging at Jake meant, and hey, what the so-called white man might have caught wind of it. The white woman was afraid and shit, made up a lie. So, he was making advances towards me, he was touching me and trying to rape me, this, that, and the third, you know. But a lot of times, man, the so-called white woman was indeed into the Jake man. See, and even when you go into these stories, man, Jake never has a fair trial. All right, the judgment that's cast, the verdict that's given, okay, it's all based upon the hatred that Esau, Edom, so-called white man, bears towards the children of Israel. And all Esau knows that he wants you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans dead. See, so Esau, man, he doesn't judge righteously, man. He doesn't fully search things out, man. Okay, all he knows is Jake is in the one that's on trial. They throw the book at him, put him to death. You know?
Yeah, if I can back you up, that's how, because you made a point that Jake ain't given a fair trial. Because hey, in this article, the report was made on July 11th, and he ended up being lynched on July 12th. So hey, he didn't even get a chance to do anything or say anything because he was lynched the next day after the report was made, man. All right, hey, that's how you know Jake is really a prey here in Babylon, aka America, man. All right, our only form of defense is Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, man. Right?
Uh, this is, I got something else. The second, well, let me read this part. It says Psalms 35, verse 11 and 12. It says, false witnesses did rise up. They laid to my charge things that I knew not. They rewarded me evil for good, to the spoiling of my soul, brothers.
Hey, what does a false witness do, man? Spread lies, spread rumors. No. Hey, a lot of these things that we read about in history, the claims, the accusations made against Jake, man. Hey, they weren't backed up by facts, man. Hey, they were just false rumors. And hey, really, man, Esau has always been looking for a reason to get Jacob out of there, man. You know? So hey, it's the same playbook as we always say. The demise of a Jake man is started by the false accusation, right, of a so-called white woman, which leads to what the so-called white man getting roused up and putting hands on Jake, ultimately leading to his death.
I'm going to read this to jump up to 35 because we know that which is then is now, and this is David, speaking. And in the spirit, this is the thing in which we have to deal with in today's time. But David mentions in verse 1, it says, "Plead my cause, O Yahweh, Hashem Yahweh Shai, it says, with them that strive with me. It says, fight against them that fight against me. Take hold of shield and buckler and stand up for mine help." So I mentioned that because, the false accusations, false reports, propaganda, all that is coming back to the forefront. And of course, brothers know just through this example that it's nothing for them to create a false report and then act upon it. One thing that came to mind, if somebody can pull it up real quick, the term right to a speedy trial and see like right to a speedy trial. Let's just see like GPT or whatever and see what you get out of that, because we see that that's a term that has been spoken, and we notice that a lot of times they'll make these accusations, they'll arrest someone, and then they quickly move, but not with all the proper evidence. Go ahead.
It says the Sixth Amendment
Thank you, Speaker.
It says the Sixth Amendment guarantees your right to a speedy trial to protect against prolonged incarceration and evidence loss.
Mhm.
The time limits depend on jurisdiction and custody status. For example, in California, you are entitled to a misdemeanor trial within 30 to 45 days and the felony trial within 60 days. I think that's it.
So again, but still that's 30 and 60 days for misdemeanor, and what was the other one?
60 days for a felony
For a
trial.
felony trial. So even if it was an assault of a so-called white woman, they pretty much went past what law would actually has given, right? So they taken the law in their own hands. This is the book of Exodus chapter 23, verse 2. It says, "Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment," brothers. I'll read it one more time. This is the book of Exodus chapter 23, verse 2. "Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment."
You're supposed to follow a multitude to do evil. That's what was going on. You know, a false accusation raised up by a white woman. And when you have a mob of white men are going to what? Take down Jake, man. You see, so hey, just like the brother Barra was going for earlier, it ain't nothing for you might see, raise up a false report, come up with a lie and act on it, man. What's it? That's a neither shalt thou decline to cause wrestling judgment. Is that what it said?
No. Yeah, let me get it. My bad.
I got it pulled up.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Exodus 23 and 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment.
Yeah, another version.
Yep. It's Exodus 23 and 2 in the NLT. It says, "You must not follow the crowd in doing wrong. When you're called to testify in a dispute, do not be swayed by the crowd to twist justice."
What's that? No respect of persons. No. They were executing judgment based on what the word I'm looking for. No, based on what the people want, and not executing justice accordingly, man. And that's the thing about Esau. He doesn't execute righteous judgment in his land. It says in Habakkuk, the first chapter. You got that?
Habakkuk, first chapter, starting at 4, and it reads, "Therefore the law is slack, and judgment do never go forth, for the wicked do compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceed."
Yeah, so what compass means to what? Circle around. So, Esau is always looking for ways to, surround and trap Jake, man. Coming up with unrighteous decrees, and things of that nature. Always looking for a way to keep Jake in a low state, man.
And so in today's time, you have the only ones who actually are speaking when we think of today, who's actually really putting their life on the line, are the prophets of the Lord, because when something actually happens, and you have celebrities, may speak on some things, like for example, you had Nick Cannon, he had spoke and said some things that I believe it went back to like the Amalekites, the small hats, and they was on they was on his ass. And then before you know it, he was writing an apology. They were, you had uh Kanye West, spoke some things, and then started taking money and doing certain things to his accounts, and he had to, rebuttal or go back, lightweight apologies. We see that happening a lot, and we know who has control. They also, you have the scripture that talks about, how a gift destroyeth the heart. So a lot of times they're giving money to the judges. If you have wealth, and a lot of these top elites and these uh, city councilmen and all of these, they are all in connection and cahoots with each other. They all in the clubs with each other. A lot of these bankers, these sheriffs, and things like that. So they spend the money. They look out for each other. Um, Wasn't it Carmelo Anthony? You're seeing the different connections that these guys are having amongst themselves. Marrying amongst each other, showing favor to each other. And so, of course, they're not going to speak up when they clearly know that there is an injustice that's happening. And so, not speaking up and being in the midst with them, you're pretty much in connection with them. You've joined on to them. All right, we go back to the article. If nothing else.
I got a quick verse.
All right, Kyle.
This is Proverbs chapter 19 and verse 5. It says, "A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape." Going into, you could clearly apply this to Esau, Edom, because, Israel has been given into the hands of their enemies, here in Babylon the Great, you know, and it's countless amount of times where Esau he'll put a false witness upon Israel, and then uh 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 you know uh, false judgment will fall upon that Israel, man. You know, but we're coming into the time so where Esau, he's not going to be able to do that no more. You know, because power is going to be stripped from Esau, Edom. You
All right. Yeah, it's back to the article. It says the next morning on July 12th, Mr. James was aboard a train returning to Charlottesville when a mob of armed white men intercepted the train at Woods Crossing in Albemarle County and seized him. The mob, at least 150 strong, broke into the train car and put a rope around Mr. James's neck. When news of the attack spread, a group of black men attempted to stop the lynching, but they were outnumbered by the mob. The mob then dragged Mr. James from the train to a locust tree 40 yards away and hanged him before firing dozens of bullets into his body. And then, that was overkill, man. All right. Hey, first of all, the accusation was made on July 11th, right? And they caught him on a train on July 12th and went and hanged him in a tree. And on top of that, all right, they riddled him with bullets, man, while he was already dying. All right, that goes to show, hey, that hatred that he has, man. All right, Edomite, that what they can't even really feel empathy for Jake, man. That's why they was able to do the shit that they was doing, man. All right, and that's why, hey, there's judgment stored up for you Edomites, man. All right, because y'all was just doing shit ruthlessly to Jake, man, undeservingly, man. All right, it says back into the article, it says before he was hanged, Mr. James protested his innocence to the crowd. The crowd dispersed, leaving Mr. James's body hanging for hours. It says those who lynched Mr. James made no effort to conceal their faces. As in the case of Mr. James's lynching, celebratory atmospheres during or following a lynching were not atypical, and it was not uncommon for lynchers to leave the bodies of their victims hanging in plain sight.
You know what? Going back to that Psalm 73 earlier that the brother Shamar Nayel read, that second half said what? Therefore, pride can pass them about as a garment, and violence covered them as a chain. Because they Esau has the pride in their mind that basically hey, we could get away with it. These ain't nothing but some niggers and jigaboos, monkeys, so on and so forth. All the various different proverbs and bywords that they called us in history. See, so that's why the violence towards Israel, right, has increased. Right? Esau has dealt towards the nation of Israel. Is what they're not in trouble as other men. Okay, so ultimately, if they're not, if they don't receive a punishment for what they do to Jake, then their mindset is, what, I can get away with it, and I can do worse the next time. So that's why you see we got stories of Jake man being lynched. They've been thrown out of buildings, hung, taken down, strapped to the back of a car, driven all right throughout the streets, and then burned and what Esau cutting up Jake body parts and things of that nature. You know, Esau is guilty of doing some very gruesome shit to our people, man. And none of that's gonna go unpunished.
And I would and we'll get your precept real quick, but just a thought that come to mind is that as we're reading this, there's more, has to be more to this story, because this man got on a train, and 150 men, by the time 150 men stopped the train. So I'm just thinking that you went past all these other people. There was other so-called blacks out there, because even they said there was men who actually tried to stop them. You didn't touch them. They were geared on this one particular man, you know, and it happened to be a false witness, saying that he did something with the white woman. So yeah, I just kind of throw that out there. It's like there had more information. Maybe he was engaged with a woman, and they just didn't, they hated on it. They wanted to act on it, because again, for it to be so many to just go after him, and you had other black men was trying to stop it, but they couldn't help. They got overpowered, but it didn't say that anything happened to them, those men. So we just showing like how bloodthirsty they are when they're after a particular person, or they want to do a particular thing, that they won't stop until they get exactly what they want, until they actually hurt. Um, like it tells the scriptures, they talk about they sleep not unless they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they've caused some to fall. But they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. So it's like, um, so that just was something of the part of that story that, as we're reading it, to everyone, that just kind of stuck out to me, on that. You got your precept.
This is just to land back on the point that Amawai made. This is Ecclesiastes 8:11. It says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. And a perfect example is you know Esau's pride has actually been puffed up throughout all these years of the establishment of the kingdom, man. All right, through the atrocious acts of our people, man. Because Yahweh Shai has been letting Esau pretty much have a free game on our people, man. All right, Esau was able to do all types of atrocities and get away with it, man. You know, and continue uh, to build this kingdom up. All right, but it's gonna come a point in time to where Yahweh Shai is gonna require that tab, all right, that Esau Edom has to pay. All right, and this he's gonna have to pay that in not only is gonna pay for his wickedness that he did to Esau Edom on this side, but also in the kingdom, man. So the Lord is building this man's tablet, and he's gonna have to pay that tab head on, man. All right.
You know, because the scripture said what he that touched you touched the apple of mine eye. So, you know, Esau, Edom, he's, you know, experiencing judgment for the wickedness that he's committed towards the children of Israel on this side, right? As we see what, you know, the average American is mourning due to the state of America. But it doesn't end here for you Edomites, okay? Hey, in our kingdom, it's only going to get worse for you. No? For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
All right. Going back to the article, it says, newspapers reported that hundreds of white people visited the scene to view Mr. James's body and cut off pieces of his clothing, his body, and the locust tree as souvenirs. These acts of violence not only victimized the individual, but traumatized and terrorized the wider black community near and around Charlottesville. Mr. James's proximity to the railroad tracks meant that hundreds more viewed his body from the passing train cars. As part of EJI's Community Remembers Project, on July 12, 2019, Charlottesville community members and officials gathered in memory of Mr. James and unveiled a historical marker which recognized the lynching of Mr. James. John Henry James was one of at least 85 people lynched during the period of 1877 to 1950 in Virginia, and among the 6,500 black people who were victims of racial terror violence that EGI has documented.
To 1877 to 1950.
Mm-hmm.
Those probably way more than 85.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's what I thought when I first heard him read it. It was that's almost a whole century. That's what, you know, 27 years shy off of a century. So we talk about 73 years, right? And only 85 lynchings. It's probably the only ones that's been documented from between that time period.
And you know, Virginia, that was near like the southern region. All right, so best believe, you know, because that's where a lot of racial terrors was going on. Best believe there was more than just those 85 between that time period, man.
Yeah. That was probably the 85, and we probably could, you know, do like a background check of those 85, because those probably were 85 that they actually were celebrating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that because you know they also had, you know, just all over America, you know, they were having picnics, they were selling tickets to many of these events. Um, they had the children they eat popcorn. This was a major event in some places. You had churchgoers, you know, pastors, and you know, uh, like I say, it was judges, doctors, from every level in government involved in these lynchings. So out of 150 people within this community of so-called white men, that was, you know, they pretty much held that information. They passed it on down. And what year was that again?
18. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Like 1800s, but still
Yeah,
that
late
information.
1898.
Yep, that 1898. So a lot of that information got passed down to the children. They spoke of it in their during dinner of how, you know, their forefather, you know, lynched or, you know, took part in an event, you know, and didn't get in trouble for it. Maybe even talked about how those were the good old days, you know, and so now a lot of things the Lord is changing. The tides are changing. Galatians 6. When we finish with the article?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Let's just get just a couple. Um, Galatians 6, 6, 7.
I got it.
Yep. Go ahead.
This is Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7. It says, be not deceived, the Most High Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
So all the things in which we do upon this earth, it has a repercussion, a consequence, a reward, or something that comes back to us. This particular case tells us in Romans 6 and 26, I believe, or 6 and 23 is like, for the wages of sin is death. All right. So if you've committed atrocities, the Lord is going to you're going to receive a recompense of an atrocity. All right. And this is a reason why, because we are, our forefathers. So a lot of these people died, went on, to the spirit world of old age. They continue to live a prosperous life, passed on their riches and things that they've had gained and stole to their children and their children's children and children's children, many generations where they had not seen, even to this day, many of these people have not seen a recompense for their bloodline and the things that their bloodline, their forefathers had done to our people. So read the second part of that.
It says, verse 8, Galatians 6 and 8. It says, for he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting.
So you're gonna be able to these times you should know, and actually discern who's doing righteously and who's doing wickedly upon the earth currently. This is the book of Obadiah, chapter we know it's 1, but verse 15. It says, for the day of the Lord is upon all the heathen. Just we speak of Esau Edom because he's ahead, he's the head of all the heathen on earth, current and presently. It says, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thy own head. Somebody.
So, hey, just like what we just read in Galatians 6 and 7, man. All right, hey, you reap what you sow. And as the heathen nations, beginning with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, have rewarded the nation of Israel with what? Evil, persecution, tribulation. All right, what's going to happen is what the Lord is going to recompense the heathen, beginning with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, with evil. As it says in what 2 Thessalonians, the first chapter, saying it is a righteous thing with the Heavenly Father to recompense tribulation unto them that trouble you. Right? Who's been the main one troubling us? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. So what Esau, his tribulation is going to come in the form of what? Him being exposed, him being outed as the devil that the Bible speaks of, right? His kingdom, right? His precious kingdom, Babylon the Great, aka America, being completely destroyed. All right, his whole nation, right? His nation beginning with the top wicked elite of his nation, going headfirst into slavery. And what? After they serve out their captivity, okay, what's going to happen is they're going to be wiped out as a nation forever.
Yeah, and they're celebrating, 250 years of what they consider American greatness, and our people are cleaving on to it as well, celebrating. But yet we have found 200 plus articles and videos of atrocities upon our people. Nothing but bloodshed, great robbery and murder. The Lord said, Yahweh Shai said in John 10 and 10, the thief cometh not but for to steal, but for to kill and to destroy. And that's all that we have seen as a people in this land and throughout all the places in which we have been scattered. Yeah, precept.
This is Ezekiel 35. I'm going to start at verse 5, and it reads, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, and the time of their calamity, and the time that their iniquity had end, which means, Esau, they don't hesitate to draw their sword on Jacob. That they're quick to bring it out. Verse 6, therefore, as I live, saith the Lord power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sit thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. And that's basically what, Yahweh Shem Yahshua is telling Esau, you are going to be repaid for the blood that you shed against the children of Israel.
Blood. Because what's the scripture in what's that, Ezekiel the 25th chapter? The Lord said he will execute vengeance upon Edom by the hand of his people Israel. See, our Lord Yahweh Shah said that what that we will rule over the nations with a rod of iron. So in other words, man, we're gonna be beating the shit out you heathen nations, man. Especially you Edomites, cause what? Hey, you ain't shown no mercy upon us, therefore you ain't getting no mercy, man.
They got that numbers.
This you got it. Yeah. Numbers chapter 35 and verse 33. It says, "So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it."
Yep. So just going to what your brother just brought out, because they're bloodthirsty, and because thou has not hated blood, blood shall pursue thee. And because you have shed innocent blood in the land, you have dealt unjustly and falsely. The Lord is going to that's going to be a recompense upon your works. For all the things that you've done in this land. This is why this place is going to utterly be destroyed. One of many reasons that this place is going to be destroyed, because you have shed blood in the innocent, you have killed the just. All right. Anybody else has something? I got something else. Okay, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 16, verse 11. And if there be one stiff neck among the people, it is marvel if he escape unpunished. So all those people that have done these violence, and those who have done things in secret, when they've and have not been made known, the Lord sees it, right? Um, and everything is going to come to the light of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and it's going to be made known. And then a lot of it's going to be made known by the judgments in which the people are receiving. When you see that in Europe, who actually, Europe and of course America, when you think about the slave trades and things like that, uh, many of these places, Brazil, where many of our people were scattered over to, were taken over to on these ships here in the Americas. Now in today's time, you got a lot of people over in the Europe who had bunches of slaves too, are dealing with this heat wave, right? Um, where they're dying by the thousands because of this heat. And we know that this is the judgment of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And it's a righteous judgment that's coming along, that's a plaguing many of these people. Here in the Americas, you have heat waves. We done had earthquakes and floods. Um, well, light earthquakes, but then you have these heat waves, and people are very concerned and about their life, right now, with the tornadoes and things that have happened here. But then you had the earthquakes that happened just recently. We're talking Venezuela. These are judgments from the Lord, for a lot of the things that are happening, and it's for his people, that he said he would visit this place, which he made. But it says, it is a marvel if he escape unpunished. For mercy and wrath is with him. He is mighty to forgive and pour out displeasure. It says, as his mercy is great, so is his correction also. He judgeth a man according to his works. So everything in which we do, uh, there's a uh, there's a recompense, a payment for that. So someone get the fearful thing.
This is Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 31. Do you want me to start up or straight to the point?
Yeah, straight to the point. Well, you start one, wherever you.
This is the I'll jump straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 31. It says, "It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God."
Oh, kind. Yep. So it's a fearful thing because he's gonna pour out his wrath. Venezuela's been on my mind quite a bit. I know we're talking because a lot of these places have been taken and occupied by the top elite banking families, these Amalekites. Reason why just recently, we had was it Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, like he had got, pulled from there earlier this year. So who do you think they had planted there? These elites, and they're thinking, hey, we're gonna make some moves and take over some things. And however it happened, the Lord had different plans. So of course, many people have been affected. There was a guy who actually was under the rubble, for like 7 days. So all you can see is his fingers waving and him barely can make a sound. Just think of how much more. And then with the heat and the weather and things like that, all these people who are missing and under the rubble. It would be something to know that, a lot of these could be, these Amalekites and some other folks that's getting jacked up because they're not going to tell you, because our people, because even though it's Venezuela, it's like, you think Venezuela, and yeah, our people are there, but a lot of these folks have been mixed in amongst these nations too, you know, and and they get in there and they cause a lot of harm within these communities. Everywhere that they go, America's the ultimate another example. Everywhere they go, it's nothing but bloodshed, that's happening. So the Lord has to cleanse this earth and rid the earth of these people. That's pretty much it on that. If there's nothing else, nobody else, you're good. All right. Yep. So with that, we hope that this lesson was edifying, uplifting, exhorting to the elect body of true believers. Before we end, we'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. Until next time, all those listening and learning to you, we say Shalom.